On today's menu, Chewy, Nutty, Buttery chocolate chip cookies. Here are the ingredients you will need for this recipe. Specific quantities for each ingredient will be listed in the description box. Alrighty, the first thing we're going to do is brown the butter. So you're going to need to put a heavy bottomed pot on the stove, place your 2 sticks of butter in it, and you're going to want to have your flame on medium-low. So essentially what's going to happen is the butter is going to melt and the milk solids in the butter are going to turn this beautiful golden brown. This does take a little bit of time, so you're going to work on some other parts of the recipe, but you're going to want to remember to stir this every couple of minutes. Now for the dry ingredients. Place your flour in a bowl, then you're going to add baking powder, baking soda, salt, and the instant coffee. And you're going to want to combine those well with a whisk. This is in lieu of sifting because we don't want any big lumps or clumps of baking powder or baking soda. Now we're going to chop up some chocolate. I already have measured out 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips, and I'm cutting up a little bit of milk chocolate, and I have a leftover delicious candy bar that I thought I'd throw in these cookies. So essentially we want another half a cup of chocolate. Quality here is key. The higher quality of chocolate that you use, the better your cookies are going to turn out. So I'm just adding the milk chocolate to the measuring cup and making sure I have enough chocolate to fill that half cup. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and roughly chop our lightly toasted hazelnuts. To toast the hazelnuts, you just want to put them in a pan or the oven until they turn a light golden brown. Now back to our butter. I'm just giving it another stir, and pretty soon it's getting sort of close to the stage where you're going to start to see the milk solids getting brown. See on the edge of the pot, they're turning a light golden? Now, brown butter can go from lightly toasted to black very quickly. So once your butter is browned, you're going to want to transfer it to a separate cool bowl. If you leave it in the warm pot, it will continue to cook and probably burn. Once the butter is in the bowl, we're just going to leave it there to cool for a few minutes. Once the butter is cooled, we're going to go ahead and add our brown sugar and our white sugar. And once these are added, you're going to want to mix it through pretty thoroughly. And I would recommend using a whisk here. It is going to take a little bit of time to come together. I decided to do it by hand, but if you'd like to save some time, you could do it in your electric mixer. So once it's combined, if it's still a little bit warm, you're going to want to let it sit. But if it's cool enough to where you can touch it and not feel that it's hot, you can add your 2 eggs. If you add your 2 eggs when the sugar and butter is too warm, your eggs will scramble. So once the eggs are in, you're going to want to go ahead and whisk that through pretty thoroughly. It does take a couple of minutes, but you're looking for everything to be evenly combined. Now we're going to go ahead and add the vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon worth, or a splash. You don't have to be super precise with the vanilla measurement. And go ahead and mix that in. Next, we're going to go ahead and add our dry mixture into our wet mixture. And we're going to want to add the flour in 2 additions. And for some reason, I decided to use the tiniest spatula I own. It would be much easier and much faster if you used a larger spatula or perhaps a wooden spoon. So excuse me while I struggle with my mixing. Now we're going to add our second addition of flour and go ahead and mix that through. And at some point I decided mixing with the tiny spatula wasn't fun anymore, so I grabbed a bigger spatula. So with the dough, You want to make sure you mix it so all the flour disappears, but you don't want to over mix it, otherwise you'll have tough, yucky cookies. Well, they probably won't be yucky, but they will be tough. Now we're going to fold in our accessories. I'm going to add the chocolate and the hazelnuts, and I'm going to gently mix those in. I want to make sure it's evenly distributed so every cookie gets a little bit of all the different add-ins. And if you are using an electric mixer, you will want to fold in the add-ons by hand, otherwise the mixer will break up all your lovely chunks. Now that everything is beautifully mixed together, our dough has to rest for a little while. So you can either put them in the refrigerator for a minimum of 30 minutes, or you can refrigerate these guys overnight, or if you're impatient like me, you can place the dough in the freezer for about 15 minutes. So you're going to now want to set your oven to 355 degrees while your cookies are in the freezer so it can go ahead and preheat. And we're going to line 2 baking sheets with parchment paper. Now we'll go ahead and pull our dough out and portion it onto the baking sheets. And for this, I like to use an ice cream scoop because it makes sure that all of my cookies are going to be approximately the same size. You can also use teaspoons or tablespoons or however you like. And I'm just going to go ahead and make 2 dozen cookies. I did have a little bit of dough left over, so I just wrapped that dough up and I stuck it in the fridge, and I'll probably bake those off another day. Now that our cookies are ready and the oven has been preheated, we are going to put them in. My oven cooks pretty evenly, so I can do 2 racks at a time. Now I'm going to set my timer for 12 minutes. These cookies are going to take around 12 to 15 minutes to bake, and at halftime you will want to turn the pans around. So once they're done, you're going to want to go ahead and pull them out. I would let them cool and set up on the baking sheet for a few minutes, and then transfer them with a spatula onto a metal rack to cool completely if you're going to store them, but if you want to eat them warm, they're especially delicious. Now for the official taste. Yes, they are delicious. Chewy, gooey, chocolatey, nutty. Everything that I would want in my chocolate chip cookie. Thanks for watching.